Hey everyone, and welcome back to another industry report. I was thinking of just covering this story in the recap, but you know what? I think Epic deserve the full treatment. Having found themselves with near endless resources, we now see Epic use those resources to ram their way through market norms. Often market disruption ends up being a good thing, such as with new technologies, but in this case, well, it basically just is Epic deciding to put growth first at the expense of everything, including their own public relations. While I have many gripes to cover, the most recent development is tied to Ubisoft and The Division 2, which is an Epic Games Store exclusive outside of Uplay. Now this of course follows on from the situation that we talked about a few weeks ago with Metro Exodus, another popular title that had been available for, well in its case, had been available for pre-order on Steam, only to have those pre-orders be stopped when Epic Games Store exclusivity was announced. This led to customers only having one option for Metro Exodus. Now, will that move have hurt their game sales? It's kind of hard to tell. Technically, they could still make more money with less sales because of the more favorable 88-12 revenue split, which is significantly better than Steam's 30%, but before we get into the numbers, let's talk about the news story. So, The Division 2 is developed by Massive Games and published by Ubisoft. Typically, a game like this would be available on many different storefronts, but would always link back to Uplay, so be it Steam, Green Man Gaming, whatever, you could purchase a copy of that game from multiple different places. Well, with The Division 2, that is no longer the case, in a move that has greatly angered third-party sellers and really disrupted their business a lot, such as, say, Games Planet, who made this post on their Division 2 sales page. Sadly, we have to announce to you that Ubisoft will not allow digital third-party stores such as Games Planet to sell Division 2 after its release on March 15, 2019. After this date, the game will digitally only be available through Ubisoft Store and another exclusive digital store. This will also be true for all upcoming game content, such as Season Pass, expansions, etc. They then went on to say that they're not going to be able to offer support because they won't actually have access to keys after the 15th, and they ended by saying this: "Obviously, we are not happy about this decision." Yeah, so seemingly as part of the Epic Games Store exclusivity, keys will not be available to these third-party sites. This was, of course, also the case for Metro Exodus, and once again, it shows us how much leverage Epic Games seem to have. They are going far beyond what Valve would do. On Steam, you could always activate a key from a third-party store instead of purchasing it directly through Valve's storefront. Now, there are two types of third-party market. There are the sketchy people like G2A, who basically are just scumbags, and there are the legitimate ones like Green Man Gaming, who do get their keys through legitimate means, such as, say, Ubisoft themselves. So, these storefronts sell legit keys, but they often end up competing with each other, sacrificing profitability in order to attract more sales. They often run promotions such as Games Planet, running one with PaySafeCard that can get people, I believe, a £3 discount on The Division 2. These third-party storefronts compete on price and they compete on service to attract customers, which often means customers getting more choice, better features, and lower prices. This is not something that Valve have attempted to crack down on. If anything, Valve seem to be very libertarian in how they run their company. Certainly looking at the people involved, that would make quite a lot of sense. What this means is that there's not really much in the way of top-down edicts from Valve. You constantly see them create market-based systems like the trading cards and their attempt at paid mods. They're big into user reviews and essentially letting things just sort themselves out through the combined actions of their user base. Now this, of course, comes at the price of chaos, and it's fair to say that many of Valve's initiatives have not been smooth. It does mean, though, that they've not been tyrannical in how they've decided to run things. They've not been that anti-competitive. Well, that's what's different between them and Epic Games. Epic Games, right out the gate, are locking people down to exclusivity deals in order to prevent them being on other major storefronts, and also shutting down the legitimate third-party key market, hitting the likes of Green Man Gaming and Games Planet. That is not something that Valve ever did. So if users say maybe wanted the humble wallet feature and the charity discount stuff there, or maybe just a discount in a game, like Green Man's current 21% discount in Devil May Cry, well, that's going to be far less possible in a world that is more controlled by the Epic Games Store. Now, from a developer perspective, parts of this, well, publisher perspective, I suppose, parts make sense. So if you think back to yesterday's video, we talked about how Ubisoft would lose 25% of a game's RRP to the distributor and then another 20% to the platform holder when selling on a physical disc. Well, if you're going digital, then your distributor and platform holder often are the same, as is the case with the Epic Games Store, meaning that the only cost is the store fee, which for Epic is 12%, which is significantly lower than Valve's 30%. So a $60 copy of The Division 2, if that was sold physically in a console, they'd earn $37.5. Well, if a $60 copy is sold in the Epic Games Store, they would earn $52.8. So as you can see, the maths makes a lot of sense for Ubisoft. And as much as when we abstract this away to a faceless corporation, it all seems like, oh, profit or whatever. If you think to your local farmer, if they could sell all of their milk at their farm shop and make 40% more profit on that milk versus having it all go to a supermarket for barely anything, you know, the farmer would sell their milk in their farm market. The thing is, of course, milk is everywhere, but The Division 2 is not. It's only on Uplay or the Epic Games Store, so within the bounds of a single title, yes, it is rather anti-competitive what Epic are doing. Epic are more than happy to burn through customer goodwill in order to expand their storefront. Ultimately, they know that basically skimming 12% off the top is essentially free money as compared to making games. I mean, certainly it's not like Valve have really put out that many games in the last 10 years, is it? But then, of course, there's even more in this for Epic. It also feeds into another major side of their business, Unreal Engine 4. Unreal Engine 4's royalty fee for games that are sold on the Epic Games Store, well, that royalty fee is covered by Epic's 12% cut. Yeah, they're covering the whole licensing cost of their engine as a part of their side of the revenue split. I suppose the worry for me is that, well, that would be one company owning the largest common AAA engine and maybe the largest store as well, and that is a lot of power under one company. So it's very annoying for players of Metro Exodus and players of The Division 2, and it's going to be very annoying for people in the future, as no doubt we will see more and more Epic Games Store exclusive titles. Epic are betting that regardless of how people are angry, they're still going to buy games. Ultimately, just about every other major boycott has failed for that very reason. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 PC, Mass Effect 3, EA Origin, all had massive boycotting campaigns and all were successful. Human nature is what it is. People want the entertainment products for their downtime. And when it comes to only having a few hours to kick back every week, I think most people are happy to give in to a store they don't really like if it means that they can play the game that they want. And to be honest, I can't begrudge people too much for that. It's a pretty big world. There's a lot of stuff going on. We're all very busy. And if somebody does not want to be fighting a campaign within their hobby that is a little bright spark in their week, then I guess more power to them for feeling like they, it's okay, we can opt out. Now that said, over time it does present a bit of a problem as the compounding sort of consolidation of storefronts could actually happen. You see, Valve were benevolent with their near monopoly. Based on their actions, I doubt Epic will be. Past that though, the Epic Store is a pain in the ass. The layout really sucks. Just features-wise, it's really a lot worse than Steam. Even while they are implementing user reviews, the activation of them is up to the developers, which does somewhat go against the idea of having a pro-consumer storefront. And I really feel like Valve essentially is that with Steam. They have feature-rich user reviews, curation tools, community tagging, and a bunch of other features. And while the success of those features has varied wildly, I don't think you can really say that they are designed to reduce the customer's access to information. They all seem like very pro-free market, free information types of things that are designed to put the power in individuals to allow them to self-organize. Again, success of those things has varied, and systems like that can be very open to abuse, but when you look at Valve's intentions, on the philosophies that have guided their decision-making, it just seems like they are a lot more customer-friendly than Epic Games, and this is not to overtly defend Valve. A lot of bad has come from how they've ran their storefront from time to time, and being real, 30% is a bit wild. Apple charging 30% for the iOS store makes sense. All the R&D they do, the custom chips they make, the whole software framework. They're building a market and kind of letting you on it. 30% seems reasonable. Same goes for Sony and for Microsoft. If it weren't for them, there wouldn't be an Xbox to sell your games on. But for Valve, that's less the case, really. They're just a storefront and a game launcher. They have some nice other features, but if you compare that to, say, what Microsoft, Sony, Apple, or Google are providing for their 30% cut, I feel like 30% is a little bit wild. So hopefully Discord and the Epic Games Store will be able to put some pressure on Valve to bring down their cut more than what they already did last year, where last year they brought it down to 25% for sales between 10 and 50 million, and then 20% for anything past 50 million. That's great for larger companies, but I really feel like they could be doing better for indies. So overall, that's the situation. I don't really like how Valve had this sort of massive, big, not monopoly, not literally a monopoly, but they had a massive amount of market share. But that said, Valve were never that evil with their market share, and I feel like that underlying philosophy in that company is, it seems to be pro-devolved power, I would say, right? Like, just looking at their actions and the systems that they have tried to develop, again, to varying degrees of success. As for the Epic Games Store, though, man, it seems so much more top-down, it seems so much more hungry for control, and that is why I can't say that I like the Epic Games Store that much at all, even though there are times when I can understand how the business numbers work and how those incentives would guide developers and publishers to make certain decisions. So, there you go. Let me know what you think about this down in the comments below. If you would like to hear more about the sort of industry talk and a lot of just the finances that are running or guiding these the decision making, check out yesterday's video. I think you'll really like it if you're into that sort of thing. So, cheers, and I'll see you next time.